In today's video, I am going to be breaking down Nelson Neumann and his basketball shooting form. This is one of the most asked for videos on this channel, so I thought I better make it. So basically, he's a young player. If you don't know who he is, he's featured on Cam Wilder's YouTube channel. He plays for RWE and a few other AAU teams. So let's get down. Let's check him out. He's a very young but very good basketball player. Okay, so before we get all the comments saying that why am I breaking down a kid's shooting form, it's not perfect. Well, he makes a lot of mistakes and he has a very similar shooting form as many other young players. So let's really look at his form and see what he does really well and what he doesn't do very well. So for one, he is definitely tilted away from the basket, but his knees, feet, hips, as well as shoulders are all pointing in the same direction. There's a lot of old coaches that say you need to be square to the basket and whatever else. That's false. What you need to be able to do is to make sure that your shoulder and elbow are in line with the rim when you're going up for your shot. We can see that it's pretty well straight towards the basket from this standpoint, but he is shooting from the chest. But I am one of the very few coaches and trainers who actually don't mind a player shooting from their chest because it's very easy to be able to lift their shooting form from here to here so that now they have a higher release, a higher set point, which will allow them to shoot over taller players. Now, if we actually look at the drop of this ball, I'm going to point this out at first instead of near the end because it's actually very important. So if we go in line with the rim and then if we look at the middle of the ball, it's got roughly a 42-degree drop. That's exactly within the range as to what we are looking for. You want to be somewhere between 40 to about 44-ish degrees on the drop. The reason being is because if it drops too hard and it hits the rim, gravity has extra pressure on it, which means that it has a higher chance of bouncing out. Even though the rim may look bigger to the ball, you want to have the ball not drop perfectly straight down. You also don't want to have very little arc because the reason being is the rim looks smaller to the ball. There's a lesser chance of that ball going into the rim if you have low arc. So at a 42-degree drop, that is almost absolutely perfect. Now, if we look at his actual stance when he's about to go up for the shot, we notice that, or at least I noticed that, his knees are over top of his toes, his butt is over his heels. Now, if we actually go forward to right here, we can see that his shoulders are over his knees, over his toes, which is perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. His eyes are facing the rim. Now, when he shoots that ball, when he's about to release, he's now keeping his eyes. Now, it's hard to say where he's actually looking at this point. We're not there. A lot of players will look at the ball. A lot of players will look at the rim. Other players will look away. If you look away, that's the worst. This is essentially the second worst, and then this is the best. If you're looking at the ball when you are shooting, that is exactly what you want to have because then you get to see where that ball is going between your feel of the release plus your visuals of the ball. You are going to be able to know exactly what went wrong if you missed. We can also see that he has a thumb flick. However, we can see that also it's hard to slow it down because the frame rates is just a bit off. But with that thumb flick, it does seem like he flicks the ball just before he releases it, which may bring that shooting arm up just enough so that the ball is over the elbow, which then would be in line with the shoulder. On his release, his elbow is roughly at his forehead, which will give him that 42-degree drop, so he's got a good release. He does tend to glide forward with his shoulders over his feet. That can really mess up with the distance of your shot. Generally speaking, you want your feet to flow out, your shoulders to go back, and then going straight up in your shot. So that needs to have just a slight fix, but that's nothing major. That's just showing that he needs to get more power coming from his legs. Now, coming to the front view, we can see that the ball travels up the middle of his body. His elbow is slightly flared out. However, we can really see that he is pushing from his chest. And that is something that you don't want to really see as a player. He's pushing from his chest, which is why he also needs to have that thumb flick or that push from that left hand. Because essentially what this is doing is by releasing the ball with your elbow to the left of the ball right here, technically to his right, that's going to push the ball out towards this side. However, with a counterbalance from this side, it's pushing the ball back to this side, which then makes the shot straight. The reason why this is not a good shooting form And if you shoot like this is why you need to change. This is adding too many variables to your shot. You want the shot to be perfectly straight. You don't want any other variables. You want the shoulder and elbow to be in line, and you want the ball to be above it all so that it's one straight line towards the basket. If you are adding in a variable of pushing this way and a variable of pushing this way, if any one of those variables is off by even 1%, you are missing your shot. So if you want to have a more accurate shot, you want to cut down on the variables and shoot with just one hand from the same side of the body. I understand why there's lots of players who will shoot up the middle. That's totally fine. However, if you're adding a lot of variables, even if you have a straight release as we see right here, you are now adding more variables for when you are shooting off the dribble or off the catch or off the move, one or the other. We can see too that, as I was saying, this hand pushes this arm up straight so that the ball is essentially in line with the elbow and the shoulder. That is what you want to see on the release. That is why he makes his shots. However, he could be more accurate with his shots if he was just to fix that one slight issue. Also, this jumping forward stuff from really deep, I understand why kids shoot from deep. I'm going to tell you right now, the grade he's in, the size he's at, and the strength that he has, he doesn't need to jump forward. That's going to mess up the variability of a shot. That's adding another variability on forward's distance. If he was to consistently jump straight up into his shot, he's not going to have to worry about, do I need to take less power off of my upper body because I'm adding more power to my lower body? I'm jumping forward 3 feet or 2 feet or whatever, so I need to decrease this, add this, do this. All of these extra variables is going to mess up his shot. And I don't mean mess up his shot for good. I just mean mess up this one single shot that he's taking right here. Now, he does make this shot. I wouldn't have put it in here if he missed it. I'm lying. He missed it. There's a reason. Because he's playing with the variables. If you can't shoot a normal shot from where you're shooting from, straight up and straight back down, and you can't get the power, do some plyometrics, do some lower leg workouts, because that's where your power comes from. And then, in a week, go back to that spot and see if you can make it. Give it a week. You're young. Take your time. But again, he's a fantastic player. I'm not trying to ding him, but this is if you shoot the same way. Anyways, I hope that this video helps you become a better shooter, especially if you shoot the same way as Nelson Neumann. If it does, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again in my next video.